how would you think would be the best way to do that, to change the culture? As you guys, you guys are men, right?
Yeah, I got something for this.
Please.
Do you guys know who Andrew Tate is?
Oh my god.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Mr.
The
Bang
great,
from the internet.
the great top G, Andrew Tate. His recommendation, his suggestion,
Perfect.
I don't know if it's the right move. He said, the way to fix all the world's problems, his words, not mine, is put a woman's body count on her forehead, and that'll fix everything.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful. That was so helpful.
It actually would.
So, I'm going to open it up to you guys. Do you think that would fix a lot of problems?
I would like to comment on this with guys too, because there's a lot of guys that will have their hoe phase too. I think just because someone had a hoe phase in college doesn't mean that they aren't worth loving when they're in that period later in life. And I think Andrew Tate is referring to people in college and younger people when looking for people to hook up with or people to get in a relationship with. But if you take his claim towards just all women in general, everyone has those periods in their life,
Not everyone.
Happens.
Not everyone.
You're correct. Like, I should not generalize, but a lot of people have those times in their life, and I don't think men or women should be judged for that. So I don't know. It depends on the person too. Like, if you're not okay with it, then you're not meant to like talk to that person, and then you find someone that matches your ideals a little bit more.
Yeah.
And even like,
before I have you guys come in, I just want to go around the panel on that. So, do you think that would solve all the world's problems if we put the body count on the not my word, that's Andrew Tate's suggestion. You guys know he got banned, so maybe he's wrong. He could be wrong. He got massive. He got canceled.
Everything.
So thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's completely superficial and not important when you're talking to people. I think that body count's a social construct in general. I don't think it's productive.
Body count's a social construct.
Yeah, I think that people put a lot of social importance on it, and when it's to me, and I think to a lot of other people, it's not important. Like, it doesn't matter.
I agree with her. We had a conversation like this when we were driving to a concert. And I agree. I think that like body count, it's interesting how it refers to like how many people you've had sex with, not like how many times you've had sex.
Why is that?
Because like, I don't
mean,
know.
one
someone
body
could have,
is one body, right?
Yeah, I mean, like someone could have sex like 7 times and with like 7 different people and their body count would be 7, whereas like someone could have sex like 100 times with like one person, and like in societal eyes it still deems them like less respectable.
Let me ask you a question.
Ahead,
let me ask you a question. Let's say you have 2 people, right? Both of them have had sex 1,000 times. One of those people has had sex 1,000 times with one person. The other person has had sex 1,000 times with 300 total different people. Do you think there's going to be differences in the way those 2 people develop as people because of how many people they've had sex with? Like, do you think the person who's had sex with one person 1,000 times versus 300 different people, that might change the way that they grow and develop and look at the world? Or is it the same?
I think it depends on like a lot of different things. Like, I don't know, like it depends a lot on like your like relationship status, like what's your relationship like, and like also like what the person wants to do and like the context with it. But yeah, I don't think that like it's something that people should be like judged for. Like,
well, we're not talking about judgment here. Like, so the reason why I asked you that question is because I think if somebody's had sex with 300 different people, the way that they approach relationships, the way that they approach trusting other people, their ability to bond with other people, I think is going to be like severely affected. Versus if you've only ever had sex with one person, like if you've only ever had sex with one person and they've been faithful to you their whole life, like you're probably going to have a very solid relationship with them. But if you've been with 300 different people, you're probably going to have a lot of baggage, probably a lot of emotional trauma, potentially. You might not look at sex as like a very intimate thing, like I don't know, it just like loses its like sacredness to me, I think it would really change a person a lot.
yeah,
I want to open it back up to the question I was previously asking, if you want to.
Yeah. So.
Or do you want to respond to
Oh
Chase
no, that's
first?
okay. That's okay.
'Cause
I think it's a good point. Yeah, I have nothing to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about body count.
On the forehead.
On the forehead.
Is
right.
that the solution the world needs?
Maybe to Andrew Tate, yes. But to the rest of society, I feel like it's definitely a no. I don't think that everybody should know how many people that you slept with. I feel like that's kind of your personal information and for you and you only, right? I mean, unless you'd like to share it, then obviously that's great, right?
If a guy asked you your body count, like a potential romantic partner,
Mm-hmm.
would you refuse to answer that question?
I think it depends on the relationship that you have with that person. I mean, if it's just like someone that you're going to hook up with and they ask you, well, what's your body count? To me, that's a little bit disrespectful because it's like, well, I mean, if it's like established that we're just hooking up like once kind of thing, it's like, why are you asking? But if it's someone that you're kind of looking to start a really serious relationship with, I think it's a valid question. I think that's like a piece of information that maybe they should know. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's a good solution.
I would definitely agree with that. I don't think it's the best solution. I think what it ended up doing is it lead people to kind of like be judged before you actually get to know them. Like I definitely came to UCSB with like, for example, a perception of, let's say, frat guys. Like all they want to go and do is like hook up with people. They don't really want a genuine relationship. They're not like genuine or down to earth. And it actually wasn't until like recently that I found out like, oh, that's actually not true. And because I came in with like that initial perception, it definitely affected of how I treated other people or how I, perceived different people and how I acted with them. So I think that really if you go and get to know a person without kind of just like initially judging them, especially based off of the body count, it can maybe help you form like maybe a relationship that's a little bit deeper. Obviously, like eventually like it would be good to know, but it does depend on like what you are looking for in a person. If you are looking for a relationship, then I think it's a very like, a question that obviously can go and come up. But like for the initially just knowing like right there on your forehead, I think it would just end up causing like a lot of prejudice. Yeah.
I don't think it's the solution. I don't think it would solve all the world's problems. I personally think I think communication is the solution. But if someone asked me, I disagree with what she said over there. If someone asked me what my body count is, I would tell them. I mean, if they react poorly to it, then I'm not going to hook up with them. I feel like that's a huge red flag, but I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. I mean, I've done what I've done, and there's no point in like trying to hide that or pretend that it is something bad.
I think it'd be beneficial. I think that if people were to say, if they're just looking for somebody to hook up with, and they're like, oh, like you and me, we're the same, or if people were looking for somebody that's a little bit more stable and something more serious, they could like immediately tell that, and it would save a lot of time.
But like I have a question. Can I follow up on that?
Of course.
So you went and said if you're looking to hook up. So like I think maybe like, the body count versus someone who's looking to hook up is different. Because for example, you were saying, Chase, that you were a different person freshman year. Mm-hmm. So maybe your body count's like really high, but now you're a different person. So if you just went and had like that number on your forehead, they're going to perceive you or judge you based off of your past actions and not based off your actions today. So maybe that's like, obviously it would be really simple. It's kind of like if every girl and guy like got introduced and a guy knew, oh, she's into me because she said, oh, I'm into you. Why don't we like start that instead of maybe playing them? Obviously that would be really helpful for everyone. So is that kind of what you mean? Maybe the body count, or kind of like going and talking to him and saying, hey, are you just in it to hook up? Or do you actually maybe want to start something a little bit more serious?
I mean, part of it is like atonement.
Mm-hmm.
For like what you've done, but then also it could just be someone they see it, and then for somebody that's just like hard no,
mm-hmm.
and that's just that. For somebody, they might be like, hey, you might have had some kind of phase, might have done something, but I can get over that. I can talk to you. I can like you as a person. Get over that. But I mean, for some people, they're going to be able to do that. For some people, they're not going to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, like then that's cut and dry right there. Like if somebody wants to make that assumption and be like, absolutely not, like right there, no. Then that's on them. If somebody wants to be like, hey, this could still be a good person, whatnot, then that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so before I answer that question, Brian, can I ask you to flesh out why Andrew Tate thinks that putting body counts on people's foreheads would solve all the world's problems?
You know what? I don't recall precisely his reasoning. I just remember the quip that he made. So I know, and I don't want to misspeak for him. So,
well, I vaguely recall hearing a clip where he was talking about this, and basically it came down to the more people that you have sex with in your lifetime, like we talked about in the last episode that we did, you know, there's...
By the way, can I just ask you, do you think we should, because we've talked about body count so much, do you think we should try to cover tonight? Do you think we should try to cover some other topics, or...
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Not stay on it too long.
I think we fixated on it for a while last time, and I think there's a lot of other topics that we can cover.
So
Yeah,
we'll touch it on it a bit, but then we'll try to move on.
Yeah. So from what I understand, Andrew Tate's perspective for like why he said that, I personally, when I'm thinking about like the kind of woman that I want to marry, like how many men she's slept with matters to me, because they've done studies, and the more people that a person has sex with in their lifetime, it significantly increases their chances of getting divorced.
Oxytocin.
What'd you say?
Oxytocin, like I was saying before, the amount of oxytocin they release.
Yeah, I think it desensitizes you to, like, if you've slept with like 100 people, when you're releasing that bonding hormone, if you've released it with 100 people, I think it's going to like significantly desensitize your ability to connect with like another person in that deep, intimate way. And I think that's important. Like, I personally believe that God created our bodies to release that hormone so that we can deeply connect with another person and like really have like a close connection with them. And I think when people sleep with a lot of people long term, you kind of lose some of that. And divorce rates have increased in the past few decades. Here in California, it's like 50%. I really care about like people having healthy marriages. Like, I really want to have one. My parents did not have one. It sucked. And I think that like a lot of the world's problems come from the fact that, you know, they have broken families. And when it comes to putting body counts on people's foreheads, like, let me ask you guys this, like, as women, would you feel judged if your body counts were on your foreheads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it might entice you to sleep with less men if that was the situation?
Yes.
I don't think that's a fair question at all.
Why?
Oh.
Why not?
I said yes.
Well, I just think that like, when you're talking about body count, especially because most of us said that is not the way. The two men at the table seemed to agree with that statement. I think that body counts disproportionately have a negative effect on women than they do men.
For
and they
sure,
also
for
have
sure.
a negative
Definitely.
effect on men, in the sense that
Yeah.
men feel pressured to have higher body counts, women feel pressured to have lower body counts. And I just think that that's like, I don't know. It's just, it's not.
You're right. It is an unfair question because there's a double standard there.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely unfair. But the question was, if we did live in a world where your body count was broadcasted, do you think it would motivate you to sleep with less men?
I think it depends on the person. I mean,
Yeah.
to go back to what she said, there is a double standard. And so if you were to say guys versus girls, guys have a body count on their head and girls have a body count on their head.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that it would make the men just be like, oh yeah, great. Like, let's just keep going. And then it would make the girls, because of the double standard, be like, oh, well, absolutely not. I don't want people to think that I sleep around. Like, there's such a negative stereotype behind that. So I think it would have a different effect for boys and for girls. So yeah.
I mean, they'd kind of eat their own. Like, again, if a guy was like, oh, I'm just going to like rack up this body count. And then, again, with changing culture and influence and whatnot, you could be like, yo, that's disgusting. Like, not going to sleep with you. And then, hey, any woman that, again, like wants to do that, like, hey, go for it. But then it would just separate people based on what they like and what they value, you know?
I think
And-
that.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's actually like, I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I realize like how negative it is, because like I think the reason, and we talked about this in the car too, the reason why like men care, I think at least, like about low body counts is because I think they like, I'm not saying this is all men, but I'm saying that a lot of men like to have that like sense of ownership, like, oh, like this is like untouched, like no one else like saw this besides me, you know?
That's big.
And I think
that's
that's
big
like
for men.
I think that's like such a, I think it would like, if that were, if like my body count was broadcasted on my forehead, or like any girls was, then I think that would like just create more of like this society where like men feel ownership over women.
That's an interesting take. I wasn't expecting that last part.